See you. How are you?
I'm good, Donovan. Good to see you as well.
I know that you are no longer with Deloitte and you're now with Automotive News. How has that transition been for you?
It has been exceptional, having a lot of fun, and it's actually quite natural, right? In my former role, certainly worked a lot with the team here at Automotive News. Lucky enough to call a lot of my colleagues now friends. In both the relationship in my role at Deloitte and obviously that carries over to here at Automotive News. But great organization, great team. I think unplanned, a very compelling and interesting time to be in the news business. And not only in terms of the impact that COVID has had on the traditional industry, but I think everybody is being impacted across what I'll call, as we've talked about in previous conversations, the evolving future of mobility, in terms of, your Fuels Institute members and how it's impacting fuel retailers and fuel infrastructure and electric infrastructure, all the way to the technology and the autonomous and the electrified. So good time to be in the news business. We are getting tremendous feedback that people are turning to the pages of Automotive News for daily insights. So yeah, it has been an awesome journey thus far.
So let me give you a free plug here because I don't mind giving plugs to companies or organizations that I actually like personally. And I love your website and the information that it provides, not only with articles and daily features, but you have like little newscasts, everything. First thing in the morning, and you cover everything. It's well done, very professional. So for our audience, what's the website they can actually go to?
So the website is www.autonews.com. And to your point, we have the standing AM and PM news shifts that are anchored by Tom and Jennifer, and they do that on a daily basis. But I think as a lot of organizations have had to innovate and change direction when it comes to live events. We've also made some of those shifts around what have historically been anchor events for the team at Automotive News, particularly World Congress, which was generally our largest event of the year, wrapped around in years past around the Detroit Auto Show. With that shifting this year, now canceled. Automotive News also made some changes. Ultimately, though, with COVID, we had to go to a virtual environment. And so rather than 1 or 2 days of content, we actually have changed that into 8 weeks of content. I lovingly call it that Thursday thing, but it is Congress Conversations, and it is an opportunity over the last several weeks. It runs through June 4th. Free to any audience if you catch the live webcast. Our next one is airing tomorrow. Features Christopher Reynolds from Toyota. But it really has been interesting how our readers and subscribers and followers have gravitated towards that environment in terms of not only understanding of we're trying to test new things as everybody is, but the idea of we're coming back every Thursday at the same time. People are looking forward to that, and so forth. Today we started promoting what's next, and so Congress Conversations ends June 4th. We will then pick up on June 11th with a new 3-part series called Pace Pilot. And what's interesting about that is it focuses on early stage innovation. So how are startups driving how innovation is changing in the industry? Not only the pace of innovation, but also the thinking around innovation, right? There are different ways of thinking about, multi-year product development cycles in the traditional auto industry. And then you marry that with very fast, rapid, fast failing, fast testing culture that you often find in Silicon Valley in the startup environment. Changes how people think about innovation, changes how suppliers and OEMs collaborate, changes where innovation is going to happen. And so Pace Pilot is really around how is the pace of innovation changing? How are these new players creating a different relationship around innovation? Where is innovation happening around the product, the processes, the business, this model? That's going to be a very interesting series, that 3-part series that kicks off June 11th. So anybody willing, happy to join. It's free to everybody. So go to automotivenews.com and sign up.
Nice, very nice. And I'll tell everyone that's again watching this, a lot of things are great free. I would say that this is a great free. You do have great free features, but it's definitely worth the subscription. Fuels Institute, we have one, and it's. I was happy to find that out when I was logging in and saw articles that said subscription only, and I was glad to be a part of that because it brought out a lot of articles, a lot of things that I want to talk to you about today. And you mentioned innovation, you mentioned COVID, those two things. And I remember John and I just this past fall, we were in LA at the LA Auto Show. And it just seems like since then, the world has changed. For me personally, you look at just, you get out of LA, you get back home. My wife and I went on vacation in January. While we're in California, Kobe Bryant dies. That same day we land there. Not only that, a few weeks later, like March 11th-ish, we stopped going to work in the office. So the entire world changed within like 4 or 5 months. And I guess my question for you is, I know it has affected everyone personally with COVID, this pandemic, and that's most important. But as it relates to business, the auto industry itself, I look at EVs, I look at the technology that's moving forward, whether it's autonomous or anything that's going more so focused on technology features that may increase the cost of a car.
Mhm.
How has that really played out with this pandemic? Is that going to be something that's going to hurt those automakers with EVs? I've read somewhere in one of the articles today that Bloomberg talks about a prediction of 18% drop off in sales this year based on sales last year in EV technology. Do you see that happening? Is it going to actually catch up at the end of the year? What's your forecast for that?
So we actually are getting ready to publish some research in a couple of weeks that we did. We did a survey of suppliers in North America, and so we'll give you a bit of a preview of what suppliers have told us. So you asked them if the impact of COVID is going to create some sort of tipping point to electrified, to autonomous, to shared, and overwhelmingly they say no. Right? It's not going to. It's not going to it's not going to impact to a large extent how how we're thinking about, or it's not going to change the pace at which those innovations will come to market. What's interesting, and I think where the impact will come from, is there is a large percentage of them that as a result of this and through their efforts to shore up liquidity, as their efforts to reduce costs, they have indicated that they are shifting where capital expenditures, they're shifting R&D budgets. Where those things are going, the verdict is still out. But they are definitely saying, look, this has created a moment where we need to make sure that we have liquidity. We have to make sure that we can survive. And then, they have indicated that they are going to shift some of those budgets to the product. What's interesting, I think, is where innovation is going to be happening on this piece. A lot of folks say this is going to create automation and innovation around the enterprise, on the plant floor. How do we automate the plant floor? What is the impact to productivity for us to comply with safety protocols in response to the pandemic, right? So on a production line where you had in a 6-foot space where you might have had 2 or 3 people, now you have to change that to only being 1 person in that line, right? Shift changes much longer. And so from a productivity perspective, that will have an impact around innovation, and companies, suppliers have at least told us that that's where they think the most impact is going to be around innovation. They also, right, and I think that's certainly interesting. I think the other thing when it comes to innovation is that a lot of the suppliers are feeling that the result of COVID is going to result in fewer suppliers, right? Because of the automation, we're going to have fewer suppliers in the supply base. Part of that will obviously because some are not going to survive this, right? And so when you look at keeping the lights on, keeping the doors open, surviving, how do we navigate the liquidity? How do we keep production schedules in a whole environment of a lot of uncertainty? the impact of EVs and autonomous is probably not rising to the top of their list of priorities. That being said, right? I mean, pickups are selling, right? There are a number of electrified models on the horizon, everything from General Motors.
Let me ask you about that. You mentioned pickups are selling. Do you think that's because we get the big news flash that cars aren't selling? Everyone's going 0% financing for 84 months. It's just craziness. You're hearing, why are certain things that are stable, such as pickups, why are they still selling?
Well, I think the 0%, right? I think the 0%, a lot of what the incentives that the OEMs are putting on top of those vehicles are certainly a driver of that, particularly at the higher end, right? The full borne out features, right? Some of that is driven by the utilitarian nature of that segment, right? Et cetera, et cetera. So I think those are two factors. In speaking with dealers, they are seeing a light of the end of the tunnel. They are seeing rebounds. They are seeing sales coming back, so much so that they're rethinking some of their incentives. And right, it's no longer a requirement as it was 30 days ago, 45 days ago, to put heavy incentives on those segments. Now we can be a little bit more discerning and putting heavier segments on sedans and those things that aren't selling, or that require a little bit more incentive for consumers to purchase. Inventory is going to be a big question, right? Are consumers going to find the vehicles they want on the lots? Many of those are likely gobbled up with the high features because of the incentives. So are consumers going to have to walk down? Are they going to be willing to walk down? Are they going to be willing to wait as production ramps up?
If they have a need, if you have a need, you have to, last year we bought a new car, our family did, and it was in April of last year, and I didn't have a need. So I was able to wait until the specific car I wanted was on the lot, and I tried to wait until there were some more of those very, very, customer-friendly interest rates were coming around, or 0%, and then went the financing, but they didn't because the car was in high value or people really wanted it. And now, 12 months later, that same dealership is sending me offers for what I was talking about, the 0%. And what you mentioned is key. If you're me and you have a desire to buy a car and they don't have it, it doesn't matter what the incentive is. But if you have a need, you will buy what you need and you'll make it work. So I think there's more of us out there that probably, if we go to a dealership, you probably have a need to buy.
Yep, absolutely. And I would agree with that. And I would say that, one of the programs that we do is Daily Drive, and we interview people from all around the ecosystem. And there was one that I think aired Friday last week where the individual, was sharing some results of their own consumer study. And the key takeaway that I took from that was that when it comes specific to electric vehicles at the higher value end, right, $50,000 and above, there appears to be, at least according to this individual that was interviewed, was that there is still high intent of consumers to purchase electric vehicles at the $50,000 and above, right? And I think part of that has to do with where you fall in your economic situation, right? There are certainly those that have been severely impacted by COVID and lost jobs and are struggling to make ends meet. Of course, right? Buying a vehicle is probably not something that is going to be an incentive for them right now. But those in society that have the means, that have the where, that are still interested, it doesn't appear that there is much pullback on their intent to buy those higher value electric vehicles.
Now, one last question for you, Steve, and it comes from someone like myself being a germaphobe, and the idea that Tesla has where you can pretty much buy your car without really talking to anyone for the most part. I know that's not a thing that every dealer or any automaker wants to have. Do you see that becoming more of a norm where people don't have to come into contact with anyone to actually purchase the car they want? Now, a lot of people don't know what they want, but for those who do, will they be able to go buy something like a Honda, Toyota, Ford without really having much contact with the salesman? Do you see that changing because of this?
I do, and I think, right, as crises often do, there are some things that are done in response to that will just stick for the long term, that will be permanent. And I think you've touched upon one area that will. Everything from being able to select a vehicle, scope a vehicle on a website, to at-home delivery for test drives, to signing through various applications, right? Virtual F&I, those type of things. Dealers, the pandemic has created the need in response to showrooms closing for the short period there for that to happen. But I think that they are finding a lot of consumer interest in doing that. And I personally feel that that is just the starting point. I feel you're going to get to a point at mass where you could put on a set of virtual VR goggles and you could literally sit and test drive your vehicle and experience everything in the vehicle just like you're sitting in it, without leaving your couch. That is coming. I have absolutely no question about that. And again, is this a catalyst to accelerate the path there? Could be. But I think if you look at the traditional sales funnel, and to your core question, we've already seen incidents of that happening, and we have some data in an earlier survey that we did with dealers that they are likely going to continue those type of things for the sure sake of customer convenience, right? When the need to do it subsides.
Yeah, I believe it. And I actually personally look forward to that. I like contactless and touchless, and actually not having to talk to people to get something done. That's part of that generation. So before I let you go, just wanted to make sure that everyone got the information you gave us at the beginning of our conversation. I know today is May 27th, recording this, and you mentioned a couple of things that are coming up on the automotive news schedule in terms of free and open to everyone. You want to give those dates and those items again?
Yeah, so tomorrow, the 28th of May, we have Chris Reynolds from Toyota as part of World Congress Conversations. That is, and then we have one more of those next Thursday, which is going to be interesting. It's a retailing panel. And so we've got executives from cars.com, from Mitsubishi,
Nice.
and others that are going to talk about how retailing is changing. That will sunset, and then we will jump into a 3-part series on how innovation is changing across the entire ecosystem. If you're an OEM, if you're a supplier, if you're a startup, we're going to delve deep into three conversations around the pace of innovation and what are things to think about in this post-COVID world we're going to be living in.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to that. I will definitely be tuning in. Our Whole Fuels Institute team will be there for both of those. And again, thank you for making time for me today, Steve. And again, happy that you got a great spot there, Automotive News. I think it's a perfect spot for you, and I'm looking forward to working with you as we move forward.
Absolutely, sir. It's always good to have this conversation with you. Good to see your face. I hope you and your family and your team is doing well. And yeah, this is terrific. Look forward to the conversation. It was a great time. Thank you.
All right, Steve, take care.
Take care.